In a dense forest, Vishwamitra, a powerful sage, undertakes severe penance to gain immense spiritual powers. His meditation is so intense that the environment around him glows with spiritual energy. Indra, the king of gods, sits on his throne in the heavens looking worried. He discusses with other gods the need to distract Vishwamitra to prevent him from gaining too much power. Menaka, a beautiful celestial nymph, descends from the heavens to the earth, surrounded by clouds and divine light. Her mission is to distract Vishwamitra. In a serene forest, Shakuntala is born to Menaka and Vishwamitra. Menaka, with tears in her eyes, leaves the newborn Shakuntala in the forest, where sage Kanva discovers her. Shakuntala grows into a beautiful and graceful young woman, learning about nature and spirituality in sage Kanva's hermitage. She is often seen tending to plants and animals. King Dushyanta, a powerful and just ruler, is out hunting in the forest. He encounters Shakuntala near the hermitage and is immediately captivated by her beauty. Dushyanta and Shakuntala declare their love for each other and get married in a Gandharva marriage, with nature as their witness. Dushyanta gives Shakuntala a ring as a token of his love before leaving for his kingdom, promising to send for her soon. Shakuntala watches him leave with a hopeful heart. Sage Durvasa arrives at the hermitage. Lost in thoughts of Dushyanta, Shakuntala fails to notice him. Angered, Durvasa curses her, but then softens the curse upon her plea for forgiveness. Shakuntala, pregnant and hopeful, sets out on a journey to Dushyanta's palace, carrying the ring as proof of their love. She encounters various challenges along the way. During her journey to Dushyanta's palace, Shakuntala stops by a river to rest. As she dips her hand in the water, the ring slips from her finger and is lost in the flowing river, causing her great distress. Shakuntala arrives at the palace, but Dushyanta, under the influence of the curse, does not recognize her and refuses to accept her. Shakuntala, heartbroken, is forced to return to the forest.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
Shakuntala, carrying the burden of rejection, returned to sage Kanva's hermitage. At the hermitage, Shakuntala found solace and began a new chapter of her life. She gave birth to a son, Bharatan, who grew up to be a strong and brave boy. Bharatan played fearlessly with wild animals and displayed extraordinary qualities, much to the pride of his mother and the sage. Meanwhile, in the kingdom, a fisherman caught a fish with a peculiar ring in its belly, which lost by Shakuntala. Recognizing it as the royal ring, the fisherman decided to take it to the palace. The fisherman brought the ring to the palace, where it was presented to King Dushyanta. Upon seeing the ring, sage Durvasa curse vanished from the king Dushyanta, and the memory of Shakuntala was instantly restored. Overwhelmed with guilt and sorrow, King Dushyanta set out to find Shakuntala. King Dushyanta journeyed through forests and villages, seeking any sign of his beloved Shakuntala. He encountered many hardships, but remained determined to right his wrongs and reunite with his wife and son. Along his journey, Dushyanta finds small signs that give him hope that he is on the right path. As he nears the hermitage, Dushyanta feels a strong sense of anticipation and hope. He sees a boy playing fearlessly with a lion cub, displaying the traits of a true king. Recognizing Bharata's lineage and seeing Shakuntala again, Dushyanta fell to his knees, begging for forgiveness. Shakuntala, though hurt, saw the sincerity in his eyes and the truth of the curse. She forgave him, and they were reunited. The family returned to the palace, where Bharatan was recognized as the heir to the throne. Bharatan was formally recognized as the heir to the throne, bringing joy and prosperity to the kingdom. In the ancient and illustrious kingdom of Hastinapur, the wise and noble king Parathan ruled. Despite having 9 sons, Parathan chose the sage's son, Bhumanyu, as his successor, setting a precedent for future generations. Generations passed, and the throne was eventually claimed by King Shantanu, a descendant of Parathan, known in his divine form as Mahabhisha. Once in Brahmalok, Mahabhisha, now King Shantanu, encountered the celestial Ganga Devi. Overcome by their mutual affection, they failed to heed Brahma's words. Brahma, angered by their disregard, cursed them to be born on earth as mortals. Ganga Devi was to return to the celestial realm only after breaking Shantanu's heart. Born into the lunar dynasty as a descendant of Bharathan, Shantanu's mortal life began. He grew up to be a wise and just king. One day, while strolling by the river Ganges, Shantanu encountered a mesmerizing maiden, Ganga in her human form. Enchanted, Shantanu proposed marriage to Ganga. Ganga consented but imposed a solemn condition. Shantanu must never question her actions, no matter how inexplicable they seemed. Desperate not to lose her, Shantanu agreed to the condition, and they were married with great celebration. Their union soon bore fruit, and Ganga gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. However, their joy was short-lived. Ganga demanded Shantanu bring a chariot. With their newborn in her arms, she went to the riverbank. Ganga cast the baby into the waters of the river. Shantanu, aghast and heartbroken, could not fathom the cruelty, but remained silent, bound by his promise. This harrowing scenario repeated with the birth of their next 6 sons. Each time, Ganga would carry the infant to the river and drown him. Shantanu's heart ached with grief, but his resolve to keep his promise remained steadfast, despite the overwhelming sorrow. Ganga bore their 8th child, a beautiful boy. This time, Shantanu's grief turned into desperation. Ganga started towards the river with the 8th child in her arms, following the same tragic routine. Unable to bear it any longer, Shantanu finally broke his silence. "Why are you doing this?" he cried. Ganga paused and revealed the truth. Their 8 children were the reincarnated forms of the 8 Vasas, celestial beings cursed to be born as mortals. Ganga explained that by drowning the first 7, she had released them from their mortal existence as per the curse's mitigation. Ganga promised to take their 8th son and train him to inherit the throne of Hastinapur. She named him Devavrata. With these words, Ganga disappeared, leaving Shantanu to grapple with his sorrow and the void left by her departure. King Shantanu's heart ached, but he knew his love for Ganga had transcended the mortal realm. His life, marked by love, loss, and unyielding duty, would echo through the ages, immortalized in the annals of Hastinapur's rich history. Years passed, and one day, while walking by the river Ganges, King Shantanu witnessed an extraordinary sight. A young, handsome boy was standing in the river, his bow drawn, blocking the mighty flow of the Ganges with a single arrow. Shantanu was shocked to see this. Who is this boy blocking the river Ganga itself? He asked himself as the young boy disappeared and the river flowed normally again. As soon as he saw the young boy, Shantanu remembered his 8th son. He prayed to Ganga, pleading, "Please let me see my son again." In response to his heartfelt prayer, the river shimmered and Ganga emerged, radiant in her human form, accompanied by the same young boy who had performed the miraculous feat. Ganga greeted Shantanu warmly, and the boy followed suit, bowing respectfully. "King Shantanu," Ganga began, her voice melodious, "this is our son Devavrata. He has grown into a remarkable young man. He has mastered the Vedas under the guidance of Vashishta, honed his skills in weaponry with Sukracharya and Parasurama, and acquired wisdom comparable to that of Brihaspati." With a sense of fulfillment, Ganga continued, "My duty is complete." With these words, she transformed into water and merged back into the river, leaving Shantanu with his son. Devavrata, now a prince of Hastinapur, embraced his father and they returned to the palace together. Shantanu introduced Devavrata to the royal court, and the people of Hastinapur welcomed their new prince with open arms. Devavrata began his training as a prince, learning the arts of governance, warfare, and diplomacy under the guidance of Shantanu and other esteemed mentors. Shantanu and Devavrata shared a strong bond, spending time together and supporting each other through the challenges of royal life. The years that followed were filled with peace and prosperity for the kingdom of Hastinapur. Thanks to the wise leadership of Shantanu and the promising future of Devavrata, Devavrata proved his worth as a leader, making just decisions and earning the respect and admiration of the people. Shantanu watched with pride as his son grew into a wise and capable leader, ensuring the legacy of their dynasty. Despite the happiness, Shantanu often reflected on his past with Ganga, cherishing the memories and the journey that had brought them here. Satyavati, the daughter of the Chedi king Vasu and accursed Apsara-turned-fish Adrika, had a fishy smell due to her mother. The adopted daughter of a fisherman chief, As a young woman Satyavati, she met the wandering rishi Parashara, who fathered her son Vyasa out of wedlock. After Vyasa was born, Satyavati's virginity was restored, and the sage also gave her a musky fragrance, earning her the names Yojanagandha and Gandhavati. King Shantanu, always yearning for his wife Ganga Devi, often visited the river Ganges. One day, while at the riverbank, he saw a young woman named Satyavati helping people cross the river by boat. King Shantanu met Satyavati and fell in love with her, wanting to marry her. Satyavati asked him to seek permission from her father, the chief of the fishermen. King Shantanu met Satyavati's father and asked for her hand in marriage. Satyavati's father agreed, but on one condition: Satyavati's son should rule the kingdom. King Shantanu couldn't do injustice to Devavrata, so he returned to the palace, saddened. Seeing his father's sadness, Devavrata asked King Shantanu why he was so sad. Shantanu replied that he had hoped for a brother for Devavrata, but now felt that Devavrata alone was enough for Hastinapur. Devavrata went to ask King Shantanu's charioteer, who explained everything about Satyavati and her father's condition. Determined to help his father, Devavrata consulted the ministers of Hastinapur and discussed the situation. Devavrata met Satyavati's father and asked for his help in marrying Satyavati to King Shantanu. Satyavati's father refused, stating that as long as Devavrata was there, his daughter's son would never rule. Devavrata promised that he didn't want the throne and would only protect the king. Satyavati's father worried that Devavrata's sons might claim the throne, leaving his daughter's son degraded. Devavrata made a final promise: "I renounce the throne and vow never to marry. I will become a lifelong brahmachari." Satyavati's father agreed to the marriage. King Shantanu was overwhelmed with gratitude and gave Devavrata a boon. "Henceforth, you will be called Bhishma. You will have the power to choose the time of your death." Devavrata, now Bhishma, embraced his new identity with pride and continued to serve Hastinapur faithfully. King Shantanu and Satyavati were married, bringing joy to the kingdom. The legacy of their love, sacrifice, and duty continued to shape the future of Hastinapur. King Shantanu and Satyavati gave birth to two sons, Chitrangada and Vichitravirya. The kingdom of Hastinapur celebrated the birth of their princes. King Shantanu died before his sons reached adulthood. The kingdom mourned the loss of their king. Bhishma took over the guardianship of the young princes and guided them in their upbringing. Bhishma gave the throne to Prince Chitrangada, who proved to be a brave leader. Chitrangada led battles without Bhishma's help and showed great courage. Chitrangada was killed in a long battle against the Gandharva king. With Chitrangada gone, Bhishma and Satyavati focused on Vichitravirya's upbringing. Bhishma and Satyavati discussed Vichitravirya's marriage when he reached adulthood. The king of Kasi announced a Swayamvara for his three daughters, Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika. Bhishma attended the Swayamvara on behalf of his half-brother Vichitravirya. Other kings teased Bhishma about needing marriage at his age and forgetting his vow. Bhishma, angered by their taunts, vowed to abduct the three princesses and take them to Hastinapur. Bhishma rode his chariot and abducted the three princesses Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika. King Salva tried to stop Bhishma but failed in battle. Bhishma returned to Hastinapur with the three princesses. Amba protested to Satyavati, claiming Bhishma had wronged her. Amba explained that she was in love with King Salva and had planned to marry him. Vichitravirya rejected Amba and she was freed from Hastinapur. Ambika and Ambalika agreed to marry Vichitravirya. The wedding ceremony of Vichitravirya, Ambika, and Ambalika was grand and joyous. After the marriage, Vichitravirya fell ill with tuberculosis. Vichitravirya succumbed to his illness, leaving Ambika and Ambalika widowed. Satyavati and Bhishma mourned the loss of Vichitravirya, and the kingdom faced uncertainty. Bhishma resolved to protect Hastinapur and ensure its prosperity despite the tragedy. The legacy of sacrifice and duty continued to shape the future of Hastinapur. The kingdom of Hastinapur was plunged into crisis after the untimely death of Prince Vichitravirya. With no heir to the throne, the kingdom's future hung in the balance. Bhishma, the valiant guardian of Hastinapur, could not ascend the throne due to his vow of celibacy and guardianship. Satyavati, the wise matriarch of Hastinapur, was deeply worried about the kingdom's future and began to ponder a solution. Satyavati recalled her sage son Vyasa, born from her union with the great sage Parashara, and saw a glimmer of hope. Satyavati approached Bhishma with her plan, revealing that Vyasa could secure the future of Hastinapur through the ancient practice of Niyoga. Satyavati summoned Vyasa, who heeded his mother's call and arrived at the palace, understanding the gravity of the situation. Satyavati commanded the queens Ambika and Ambalika to bear children with Vyasa for the sake of the kingdom. Vyasa first entered Ambika's chamber. Overcome with fear at the sight of the austere sage, Ambika closed her eyes tightly. Satyavati anxiously asked Vyasa if everything went well. Vyasa revealed that because Ambika had closed her eyes, she would bear a son who would be strong but blind. Next, Vyasa entered Ambalika's room. Though she did not close her eyes, she turned pale at the sight of the sage. Vyasa informed Satyavati that Ambalika would give birth to a strong and healthy son, but he would have a pale complexion. Unyielding in her quest for a perfect heir, Satyavati decided to try once more and sent Vyasa back to Ambika's room. This time, Ambika, still terrified, sent a maid in her place. The maid, calm and composed, welcomed Vyasa and took good care of him. Vyasa, pleased with the maid's demeanor, informed Satyavati that the maid would bear a son who would be healthy, knowledgeable, and wise. In due course, Ambika gave birth to a blind son named Dhritarashtra, destined to be strong but unable to see. Ambalika bore a healthy son named Pandu, who would grow to be a mighty warrior. The maid gave birth to a wise and learned son named Vidura, known for his unparalleled knowledge and wisdom. The three princes, Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura, grew up under the guidance of Bhishma and Satyavati, each developing their unique qualities. Despite his blindness, Dhritarashtra exhibited great physical strength and a commanding presence. Pandu became renowned for his valor and prowess in battle, earning the respect of the kingdom. Vidura, though not of royal birth, became a trusted advisor due to his profound wisdom and knowledge. Under the influence of these three princes, Hastinapur began to regain its stability and strength. Satyavati's wisdom and foresight ensured the kingdom had capable leaders to guide it into the future. Bhishma continued to fulfill his vow, guiding and protecting the princes and the kingdom with unwavering dedication. Through the efforts of Satyavati, Vyasa, and Bhishma, Hastinapur was blessed with leaders who would shape its destiny for generations to come. Far away, in a different kingdom, Amba, the sister of Ambika and Ambalika, approached King Salvan with hopes of marriage, claiming her freedom from Bhisma. King Salvan, recalling his defeat by Bhisma, rejected Amba's proposal, declaring she belonged to Bhisma, further complicating her plight. Heartbroken and rejected, Amba returned to Hastinapur, determined to seek justice and restore her honor. In Hastinapur, Amba confronted Bhisma, demanding he marry her to right the wrongs done to her. Bhisma, bound by his vows as a protector of the Hastinapur throne and his commitment to celibacy, refused to marry Amba. Rejected and humiliated, Amba vowed to take revenge on Bhisma for destroying her prospects of marriage and happiness. Seeking justice, Amba approached Guru Parashuram, the powerful sage and warrior, who was known for his opposition to kings and their lineage. Moved by Amba's plea, Guru Parashuram summoned Bhisma for a duel to seek justice for Amba. Bhisma and Parashuram, both legendary warriors, prepared for an epic confrontation, each determined to prove their strength and righteousness. The battle between Bhisma and Parashuram began with a display of extraordinary skills and power, shaking the heavens and earth. As the battle raged on, Parashuram's anger grew, and he contemplated using the devastating Brahma Astra to defeat Bhisma. To prevent the impending destruction, Lord Shiva appeared and commanded both warriors to cease their fight. Amba pleaded with Lord Shiva for justice, recounting the injustices she had suffered due to Bhisma's actions. Lord Shiva, in his infinite wisdom, promised Amba that in her next birth, she would be the cause of Bhisma's death and would remember her past life. Determined to fulfill her destiny, Amba set a pyre and sacrificed herself, eager to be reborn and bring about Bhisma's end. At the same moment, in the kingdom of Panchala, a baby girl named Shikandini was born, destined to remember her past as Amba. Shikandini grew up with a strong sense of purpose, her past life as Amba shaping her into a determined and brave individual. As Shikandini matured, She began to remember her past life and her destiny to bring about Bhisma's demise. With the memories of her past life and the prophecy of Lord Shiva, Shikandini prepared to fulfill her destiny and confront Bhisma once more.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
Bhishma, the wise and devoted guardian, stood on the palace balcony, overlooking the kingdom of Hastinapur. His heart was filled with duty and care as he managed the kingdom while the young princes grew up. Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura grew under Bhishma's guidance. Dhritarashtra, though blind, was strong. Pandu was a capable warrior, and Vidura was wise beyond his years. Bhishma, after much deliberation, decided that Pandu should be the crowned king, as Dhritarashtra's blindness prevented him from ruling effectively. Bhishma decided to find a suitable bride for Dhritarashtra and heard of the beautiful and virtuous princess Gandhari from the kingdom of Gandhara. Bhishma sent an emissary to Gandhara with a marriage proposal for Princess Gandhari, highlighting the virtues of Dhritarashtra and the glory of Hastinapur. The king of Gandhara was initially hesitant about marrying his daughter to a prince who was not the crowned king and was blind. However, the prestige of Hastinapur swayed his decision. After careful consideration, the king of Gandhara accepted the marriage proposal, seeing it as a powerful alliance. Gandhari, upon hearing of the proposal, resolved to share in her husband's world and chose to blindfold herself so that she would never see what Dhritarashtra could not. With a solemn vow, Gandhari tied the cloth around her eyes, declaring that she would share in her husband's blindness. Dhritarashtra was deeply moved and saddened when he learned that Gandhari had chosen to blindfold herself, as he had hoped to see the world through her eyes. The grand wedding of Dhritarashtra and Gandhari took place in Hastinapur, attended by nobles and citizens who praised Gandhari's devotion. The people of Hastinapur admired Gandhari for her loyalty and sacrifice, and she quickly became beloved by all. Bhishma blessed the couple, hoping that their union would bring prosperity and strength to the kingdom. Gandhari adapted to life in Hastinapur, becoming a pillar of support for Dhritarashtra and earning the respect of the court. Despite his blindness, Dhritarashtra proved to be a strong and wise leader, supported by Gandhari's unwavering presence.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
In the prosperous kingdom of the Yadhav community, King Kunti Boyjagan ruled with wisdom and fairness. Despite his wealth and power, the king had no children, which filled his heart with sorrow. Suran, a close friend and relative of King Kunti Boyan and the grandfather of Sri Krishna, offered his first child, Birutai, to the king. He kept his second child, Vasudevan, with him. Birutai grew up in the palace, cherished as the king's daughter. She was renamed Kunti, a name that reflected her radiant beauty and virtuous character. Kunti became known throughout the kingdom for her beauty, kindness, and gentle nature. She was beloved by all who knew her. One day, the sage Thuruvasa Rishi, known for his temper and powerful curses, visited Kunti Boyan's palace. His arrival caused great anxiety among the courtiers and servants. Kunti, unafraid of the sage's reputation, welcomed Thuruvasa Rishi with warmth and respect. She served him diligently, attending to all his needs with humility and grace. Impressed by Kunti's sincere hospitality, Thuruvasa Rishi decided to grant her a special boon. He gifted her a mantra that could summon any deity to bestow a child with their qualities. Thuruvasa Rishi explained that the mantra could bring forth a son with the divine attributes of any god she invoked. He then departed, leaving Kunti with this extraordinary gift. Kunti, curious about the power of the mantra, decided to test it. One early morning, she stood by her window, mesmerized by the beauty of the rising sun. Kunti recited the mantra, invoking the sun god, Surya. As she chanted, the room filled with a warm, golden light, and suddenly the sun god appeared before her. Surya, the sun god, explained that the mantra had summoned him, and that Kunti could have a son with his divine qualities. Kunti, initially hesitant because she was not married, expressed her concerns. Surya reassured Kunti that she would remain a virgin even after bearing the child and could marry anyone in the future. Convinced and humbled, Kunti accepted the offer. Kunti gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, adorned with golden armor and earrings, marking him as a divine being. This child, Karna, was destined for greatness, with an invincible shield and earrings gifted by Surya. Though filled with love for her son, Kunti faced a difficult decision. Unmarried and unable to keep him, she feared the societal consequences and decided to protect him by setting him adrift. Kunti placed Karna in a carefully prepared box, along with gold coins and her finest saris. She adorned the box with protective symbols and blessings, praying for his safety. In the early morning light, Kunti took the box to the river. She wept as she set it afloat, hoping that the river would carry her son to a better future. Her heart ached with the pain of separation. Kunti watched the box drift away, her heart heavy with sorrow and hope. She whispered prayers for her son's safety and future, entrusting him to the care of the gods. Kunti returned to the palace, her mind filled with the image of her son. She struggled with her decision, but believed it was the best way to protect him from the stigma and challenges of being an unmarried mother's child. Days passed, and Kunti's sorrow grew. She often found herself gazing at the river, lost in thoughts of her son. She confided in her closest maidservants, who comforted her as best they could. Kunti kept the secret of Karna's birth and departure from everyone, fearing the repercussions it might bring. She carried the burden silently, continuing her duties as the beloved princess. Meanwhile, the box carrying Karna floated down the river, reaching the banks of a distant kingdom. There, a charioteer and his wife found the box and took the baby in, raising him as their own. The charioteer, Adhiratha, and his wife Radha named the boy Karna. They raised him with love and care, unaware of his divine origins and the extraordinary destiny that awaited him. Years passed, and Kunti often wondered about the fate of her son. She never spoke of him but kept his memory alive in her heart, hoping he was safe and happy wherever he was. Kunti drew strength from her silent vigil and continued to serve her people with compassion and wisdom. She became known not only for her beauty, but for her inner strength and resilience. Kunti's story, intertwined with the destiny of her son Karna, remained a tale of divine intervention, sacrifice, and the complexities of fate. Though separated, their lives continued to influence the course of history in ways yet to be revealed.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
In the grand palace of Hastinapur, King Dhritarashtra and his new queen Gandhari preside over a kingdom filled with opulence and tradition. The court is abuzz with the upcoming marriage of Dhritarashtra's younger brother, Prince Pandu. In the distant kingdom of Kunti Boyan, preparations are underway for the Grand Swamparam, a traditional ceremony where Kunti, the beautiful princess, will choose her future husband. The kingdom is alive with anticipation. Kunti, now a radiant young woman, is ready for marriage. Her beauty is the talk of the kingdom, and many suitors from far and wide are eager to attend the Swamparam. Prince Pandu, dressed in a distinctive white attire, arrives at the Swamparam. Unlike the other suitors dressed in red and violet, Pandu's simplicity and grace immediately catch Kunti's eye. The Swamparam begins with great fanfare. Kunti, carrying a garland, walks among the suitors, her eyes searching for the one who has captured her heart. As Kunti approaches Prince Pandu, she is reminded of the secret she holds about her past and her son Karna, born of the sun god. Her heart is torn between her duty and her feelings. Kunti's maid, who knows the secret of Karna, steps forward and discreetly warns Kunti not to reveal her past. She reminds Kunti that Prince Pandu, as a king, may not accept her if he learns the truth. Kunti decides to keep her past a secret, fearing the consequences it might bring to her marriage and future. She places the garland around Prince Pandu's neck, choosing him as her husband. The wedding ceremony is held with great splendor. Kunti and Prince Pandu are married amidst blessings and celebrations, but Kunti's heart remains heavy with the burden of her secret. After the wedding, Kunti and Prince Pandu depart for Hastinapur. As they travel, Kunti looks back at her homeland, silently bidding farewell to her past. Upon their arrival in Hastinapur, the palace welcomes the new couple with open arms. However, the news of a looming war soon overshadows the celebrations. Just as the couple settles into their new life, Prince Pandu receives news of an impending war. The kingdom is threatened by a neighboring enemy, and Pandu must lead his forces into battle. Pandu prepares for war, donning his armor and readying his troops. Kunti watches with pride and anxiety, knowing the dangers her husband faces. Before departing, Pandu bids an emotional farewell to Kunti. He reassures her of his return and asks her to take care of the kingdom in his absence. Pandu leads his army out of Hastinapur, leaving Kunti behind to manage the kingdom. As she watches him go, Kunti's heart is filled with both fear and hope. As the days pass, Kunti remains vigilant, praying for Pandu's safety. She manages the kingdom's affairs with grace and strength, earning the respect of the court. Pandu and his army engage in a fierce battle with the enemy forces. His leadership and bravery inspire his troops, but the battle is long and grueling. After a hard-fought battle, Pandu emerges victorious. He captures the enemy territory and secures peace for Hastinapur, but the victory comes at a cost. Pandu returns to Hastinapur, greeted by a relieved and joyous Kunti. The palace celebrates the victory, but Pandu is troubled by the losses they suffered. Despite the victory, Kunti notices a change in Pandu. He becomes more distant and contemplative, burdened by the responsibilities of kingship and the consequences of war. Kunti is torn between her love for Pandu and the secret she keeps about Karna. She fears that revealing the truth could destroy their relationship and bring shame to the kingdom. Kunti spends her days contemplating her secret and the love she has for Karna. She prays for his well-being and hopes that one day fate will bring them together. As time passes, the burden of her secret weighs heavily on Kunti. She fears that the truth about Karna will one day come to light, jeopardizing her family and the kingdom. Kunti continues her silent vigil, watching over her family and the kingdom. She carries the secret of Karna in her heart, hoping that one day the truth can be revealed without causing harm.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
After a victorious campaign, King Pandu returns to Hastinapur, greeted by the jubilant citizens in the royal court. His valor in battle has strengthened the kingdom's position. Bhisma, the wise elder of Hastinapur, contemplates expanding alliances through marriage. He considers an alliance with the Mathura region and plans to propose a marriage between King Pandu and Princess Mathri. Bhisma sends an emissary to King Mathran of Mathura, bearing the proposal for Princess Mathri to marry King Pandu. The proposal is well received, given Pandu's esteemed position as the crowned king of Hastinapur. The engagement between King Pandu and Princess Mathri is announced. The kingdom prepares for the grand celebration, marking the strengthening of ties between Hastinapur and Mathura. King Pandu marries Princess Mathri in a splendid ceremony. The palace is adorned with flowers and lights, celebrating the union of two powerful families. Kunti, Pandu's first wife, watches the wedding with a heavy heart. She decides to keep the secret of Karna's birth to herself, fearing the repercussions. Dhritarashtra, Pandu's elder brother, harbors jealousy due to his blindness, which bars him from the throne. He feels overshadowed by Pandu's accomplishments and the kingdom's adoration. Despite his status as the Chakravarti, Pandu shows great respect and reverence for his elder brother Dhritarashtra, treating him with utmost honor and loyalty. Shakuni, Gandhari's brother, harbors a deep grudge against the Kuru Dynasty. He begins sowing seeds of discord, whispering into Dhritarashtra's ear, inflaming his jealousy and ambitions. Shakuni secretly vows to destroy the Kuru Dynasty. He sees Pandu and Bhisma as major obstacles and begins to plot their downfall through subtle manipulation and deceit. As Shakuni's influence grows, subtle tensions begin to emerge within the royal family. Dhritarashtra's jealousy turns into resentment, slowly eroding the familial bonds. Shakuni's schemes begin to take shape as he manipulates events to create misunderstandings between Pandu and Dhritarashtra, aiming to weaken their unity. Bhisma grows concerned about the growing discord within the family. He seeks to maintain unity and protect the dynasty, but is unaware of Shakuni's true intentions. Kunti and Mathri, despite their mutual respect, feel a growing tension. Mathri's comments about her beauty make Kunti more guarded and introspective. The atmosphere in the palace becomes more tense as rumors and whispers spread, fueled by Shakuni's subtle machinations. The once harmonious court begins to show cracks. Shakuni continues to manipulate Dhritarashtra, playing on his insecurities and ambitions. He persuades Dhritarashtra that he deserves the throne more than Pandu. Pandu starts noticing the subtle changes in the court's dynamics. He suspects foul play but remains unaware of Shakuni's full schemes. He confides in Bhisma, seeking advice. The palace is on the brink of open conflict, with loyalties divided. Shakuni's manipulations have set the stage for a potential upheaval, threatening the stability of the Kuru Dynasty. As the situation grows more precarious, the future of the Kuru Dynasty hangs in the balance. The actions of Pandu, Dhritarashtra, Bhisma, and Shakuni will determine the course of events that follow.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
Vitharan, a nobleman, married Sattve, a distant relation of Sri Krishna. Their union was celebrated with joy and grandeur. Chakravarthi Pandu, after performing numerous Havan rituals and serving his country, decided to retreat to the forest with his wives, Kunti and Mathri, seeking peace and solitude. Pandu and his wives enjoyed their time in the forest, bathing in rivers and waterfalls, exploring flower gardens, and savoring the tranquility of nature. One day, Mathri spotted 2 golden deer playing in the forest and urged Pandu to hunt them, despite Kunti's warnings. The deer's golden glow added an air of mystery. Pandu chased the elusive golden deer deep into the forest, the thrill of the hunt driving him forward. As the deer stopped and stood silently, Pandu took aim and shot an arrow, piercing both deer. To his shock, the deer cried out in a man's voice. The deer revealed themselves to be Kinthama Rishi and his wife in disguise. They cursed Pandu, saying he would die if he ever tried to conceive a child. Pandu begged for forgiveness, but the Rishi died, leaving Pandu devastated and burdened with the curse. Pandu performed the final rituals for the deceased Rishi and his wife, paying his respects and seeking solace. Pandu returned to the treehouse and explained the curse to Kunti and Mathri, deciding to live a life of celibacy. Mathri, in tears, blamed herself for insisting on hunting the deer, while Kunti tried to console her. Pandu declared his intention to live as a celibate hermit. Kunti and Mathri refused to leave him and vowed to stay by his side. Pandu sent a message to Hastinapur, informing them of his decision to live in the forest permanently. The messenger delivered Pandu's message to the palace, causing shock and dismay among the elders. Bhisma was deeply shocked by the news, struggling to decide the next course of action for the kingdom. Rajmatha Satyavati was equally devastated, feeling the weight of the kingdom's uncertain future. The throne of Hastinapur was once again left without a ruler, plunging the kingdom into uncertainty. Pandu, Kunti, and Mathri adapted to their new life in the forest, finding peace in their simple existence. Strange occurrences began happening in the forest, adding an element of suspense and thrill to their lives. Pandu sensed an unseen threat in the forest, making him vigilant and cautious. Pandu and his wives encountered mysterious strangers in the forest, raising their suspicions. Pandu, Kunti, and Mathri found solace in their new life, embracing their role as guardians of the forest.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
Gandhari, blessed with a boon to have 101 babies conceived. She awaited the birth of her children with anticipation. In the forest, Pandu helped the rishis along with his wives, constantly haunted by Kinthama Rishi's curse. Kunti noticed Pandu's sorrow and remembered sage Thurvasa's boon, explaining to Pandu that she could conceive a child by chanting a mantra. Excited by the possibility of an heir, Pandu urged Kunti to chant the mantra to get a king for Hastinapur. In the forest, Pandu suggested Kunti pray to Lord Yama, the god of virtue, to conceive a virtuous king. Lord Yama appeared before Kunti, blessing her with a child destined to be a great virtue king, naming him Yudhishthhiran. Pandu was elated to see Yudhishthhiran, feeling hopeful for Hastinapur's future. Meanwhile, in the palace, Gandhari was overdue by 10 months, causing King Dhritarashtra great distress. Dhritarashtra, frustrated, lamented that his son might not claim the throne as Yudhishthhiran was already born. Gandhari, in despair, prayed to Lord Shiva, hoping for a miracle. Gandhari experienced intense labor pain, but instead of giving birth to a baby, she delivered a mass of flesh. Sage Vyasa arrived at the palace, reassuring everyone and preparing to fulfill Gandhari's boon. Sage Vyasa prepared 101 uterus-like pots, adding herbs, liquids, and bits of flesh, and recited mantras. Sage Vyasa placed the 101 pots in a cave, awaiting the birth of Gandhari's children. After some time, the first pot broke, and Gandhari's first son, Duryodhanan, was born. In the forest, Pandu asked Kunti to chant another mantra to pray to Vayu, the god of wind, for a strong brother for Yudhishthira. Kunti chanted the mantra, praying to Vayu, and received a strong baby boy. The baby fell on a rock, breaking it but remaining unhurt, showcasing his immense strength. They named him Bhim. Meanwhile, in the palace, Gandhari's pots continued to break, giving birth to her 100 sons and 1 daughter. Gandhari and Dhritarashtra named their first son Duryodhanan, and continued naming the rest of the sons and 1 daughter as they were born. Dhritarashtra's ambition for his sons to claim the throne grew stronger, despite Yudhishthira's birth. Gandhari continued to hope for the best for her sons and daughter, praying for their success and well-being. The future of Hastinapur remained uncertain, with both Yudhishthira and Gandhari's sons destined for greatness.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
In the forest, King Pandu sat on a throne, asking Kunti to have 1 more brother for Yudhishthira to help rule the kingdom. Pandu envisioned his sons guarding the kingdom from all sides. Kunti started praying to Lord Indra and chanted the mantra, her heart filled with hope for another son. Lord Indra appeared before Kunti, majestic and radiant, blessing her with a baby boy named Arjuna. Kunti, overjoyed, decided to share the mantra with Mathiri, suggesting that she pray to have sons as well. Mathiri prayed to the Ashwini brothers, asking for sons with knowledge of birds and animals. Mathiri was blessed with twin baby boys, who would grow up with great knowledge of birds and animals. In the forest, 5 sons were born to Pandu: Yudhishthira, Bhim, Arjun, Nakulan, and Sahadevan. Meanwhile, in the palace, Queen Gandhari gave birth to 100 sons and 1 daughter, fulfilling her boon. Gandhari named her sons Duryodhanan, Dushithanan, Vikarnan, and the rest, while her daughter was named Duchalai. Hastinapur now had 100 princes, 1 princess, and 5 Pandava princes who were growing up in the forest. The 5 Pandavas each developed unique talents: Yudhishthira in virtue, Bhim in strength, Arjun in archery, and Nakalan and Sahadevan in the Vedas and Shastras. The forest became a place of learning and growth for the Pandavas, as they were guided by sages and rishis. Back in the palace, Gandhari's sons trained under the guidance of skilled warriors, preparing to defend Hastinapur. The princes of Hastinapur grew strong and wise, each preparing for their roles as future leaders of the kingdom. As the princes matured, the question of who would rule Hastinapur loomed large, setting the stage for future conflicts and alliances.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
In the heart of a dense and tranquil forest, King Pandu, Queen Kunti, and Queen Mathiri lived with their 5 children, surrounded by nature's serenity. One day, in a secluded garden within the forest, Pandu and Mathiri found themselves alone, embraced by the stillness and beauty around them. As they stood together, a gentle breeze began to stir, carrying with it a sense of calm and a whisper of fate. In that moment of peace, Pandu allowed himself to forget the ominous curse that had been laid upon him by the sage Kinthama Rishi. But Mathiri, filled with concern, tried to remind Pandu of the curse, though her words were lost in the soft wind. Overcome by a wave of affection, Pandu moved closer to Mathiri, his heart brimming with love, his mind blind to the impending doom. As his hand reached out to touch Mathiri, the reality of the curse struck with sudden, devastating force. With a cry of anguish, Pandu collapsed to the ground, the life draining from his body as Mathiri looked on in horror. Kunti, hearing the desperate cry, rushed to the garden, only to find her beloved husband lying lifeless. Overcome with grief, she fainted. Mathiri, racked with guilt and sorrow, fell to her knees beside Pandu's body, her tears falling as she blamed herself for his death. As the final rites approached, the family gathered in deep sorrow, preparing Pandu's body for the funeral pyre. In her deep grief, Kunti expressed her desire to join her husband in death, a final act of devotion. But Mathiri, still stricken with guilt, insisted that it should be her who perishes with Pandu, feeling responsible for his demise. Maithri admitted her lack of maturity, saying she was not fit to care for the children as Kunti could. With a heavy heart, Kunti agreed, understanding the gravity of Maithri's plea. Maithri, resolved and sorrowful, prepared herself for the final act of devotion. Meanwhile, the news of Pandu's death reached Hastinapur, where it struck like a thunderbolt. Bhishma and Satyavati were shattered by the news, with Satyavati weeping openly while Bhishma grieved silently. Ambalika, Pandu's mother, was overcome with grief, her tears unceasing. In the forest, Yudhishthira, Pandu's eldest son, solemnly lit the funeral pyre. Maithri stepped into the flames, her expression one of peace as she joined her husband in death. The flames rose high, consuming the bodies of both Pandu and Maithri, as Kunti and her sons watched in silent mourning. Kunti, with her heart heavy but determined, gathered her sons and began the long journey back to Hastinapur. As the forest fell silent, the end of an era gave way to the beginning of a new chapter for Kunti and her sons. After the death of King Pandu, Kunti and her 5 sons returned to the majestic palace of Hastinapur, where the memories of Pandu linger in every corner. Standing in the palace, Kunti is overwhelmed with sorrow as she recalls her late husband, King Pandu, and the life they shared. Sage Vyasa, wise and powerful, arrives at Hastinapur, bringing a message for Satyavati, the matriarch of the Kuru Dynasty. Vyasa urges Satyavati to leave the palace life behind and retreat to the forest to meditate, foreseeing troubling times ahead. Satyavati, along with Ambika and Ambalika, follows Sage Vyasa to the forest, leaving behind the palace and its burdens. Duryodhana, watching the strength of young Bhima, is filled with jealousy and fear that Bhima might prevent him from claiming the throne. Duryodhana, determined to eliminate his rival, plots to poison Bhima. He invites the Pandavas to a day of games by the river, masking his deadly plan with false kindness. The Pandavas, led by the eldest, Yudhishthira, accept Duryodhana's invitation and spend the day playing joyfully, unaware of the looming danger. After the games, Duryodhana offers food to the Pandavas. He has prepared a special meal for Bhima, laced with poison. As planned, Bhima, feeling full and drowsy after the meal, falls unconscious near the riverbank. Duryodhana and his brothers wrap the unconscious Bhima and throw him into the river, hoping he will drown and never return. Bhima, carried by the river's currents, sinks deep into the underworld of Nagalok, the realm of serpents. The serpents in Nagalok bite Bhima, but instead of harming him, their venom neutralizes the poison in his body. Awakened and filled with renewed strength, Bhima begins to fight the serpents, unaware that they mean him no harm. King Nagaraj, the ruler of Nagalok, hears of Bhima's arrival and stops the battle. He welcomes Bhima with open arms, recognizing him as family. In honor of their shared lineage, King Nagaraj offers Bhima a mystical potion that grants him the strength of 500 elephants. After drinking the potion, Bhima falls into a deep healing sleep, staying in Nagalok for 7 days. Back at the palace, Kunti grows anxious about Bhima's disappearance and fears for his safety. She shares her concerns with Vidura. Vidura suspects that Duryodhana is behind Bhima's disappearance, but assures Kunti that Bhima will return safely. Even Bhishma, the great elder of the Kuru clan, hears of Bhima's absence and vows to find him. The people of the palace search everywhere for Bhima, scouring the rivers and forests, but find no trace of him. After 7 days, Bhima returns to the palace, his body filled with newfound strength. He tells Kunti everything about Nagalok. Duryodhana is shocked and terrified to see Bhima alive and stronger than ever. His plan has failed, and now he fears Bhima even more. Learning of the Kauravas' treachery, Kunti decides to leave the palace with her sons, fearing for their safety. Bhishma intervenes, promising Kunti that he will protect her sons and ensure their safety, persuading her to stay in Hastinapur.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
The grand Hastinapur palace stood tall and magnificent, where the Pandavas and Kauravas were being prepared to become future kings. 105 princes, full of youth and potential, awaited their next phase in life, their education in the ways of kingship. King Dhritarashtra, knowing the weight of his responsibilities, realized that the princes needed a wise and virtuous teacher to guide them. They needed knowledge of virtue, power, and love to become effective rulers. The search for the right teacher began. Bhishma, the grandsire of the Kuru Dynasty, joined Dhritarashtra in the search for a knowledgeable sage who could impart wisdom and martial prowess to the princes. Their criteria were high, as they wanted someone who not only mastered archery and warfare, but also virtue and discipline. Once a devastating famine struck the land, lasting for 12 long years. The rivers dried up, crops failed, and even the sages of the land struggled without food. The land was barren, and the people despaired. In their despair, the sages turned to the powerful Rishi Gautama. Known for his immense spiritual power, Rishi Gautama was approached by the suffering sages, who sought his guidance to end the famine. Rishi Gautama, with his immense spiritual power, performed a powerful penance to the gods. His deep meditation, years of austerity, and his connection with the universe allowed him to invoke divine intervention, ending the famine that had plagued the land. Through the power of his penance, Rishi Gautama brought rain back to the lands, and the rivers flowed once more. The famine that had lasted 12 years was finally over, and life returned to the kingdom. Rishi Gautama's son, Sarathuvan, was a sage of great power in his own right. Through his penance, he had learned the art of archery, becoming a master archer with supernatural skills. His connection to the divine made his archery unmatched. Seeing Sarathuvan's intense penance, Indra, the king of the gods, became jealous and sought to break his focus. He sent the beautiful celestial nymph, Janapathy, to distract Sarathuvan and ruin his penance. Gautama's grandchildren, Sarathuvan's children, Kirubacharya and his twin sister Kurubi, were learning under the guidance of their wise grandfather. Both were skilled in spiritual practices and had inherited immense wisdom. Hearing of Rishi Gautama's wisdom, Dhritarashtra considered appointing his grandson Kirubacharya as the teacher for the princes. The sage had the knowledge of both warfare and virtue, making him a strong candidate. Though Kirubacharya was a great sage, Bhishma felt that the princes deserved someone even greater. He continued the search for a teacher who could shape the princes into rulers who would uphold dharma and justice. After much discussion, the decision was made to continue the search for the perfect teacher. The future of Hastinapur rested on finding someone who could balance knowledge of virtue, love, and power. Meanwhile, the princes eagerly awaited the arrival of their teacher. They knew that their future as rulers depended on the knowledge they would receive and the discipline they would cultivate. The search for the perfect teacher continued, but with faith in their hearts, the Kuru Dynasty knew that the right guide would soon come to shape the future kings of Hastinapur.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
Sage Bharadwaja lovingly teaches both his son, Dronacharya, and King Prashata's son, Drupada, in the peaceful atmosphere of his ashram. While playing together, Drupada laughs and promises Dronacharya, "One day when I become king, you shall come and rule half my kingdom." Dronacharya marries Kripi, the twin sister of Kripacharya, and their love brings peace to Dronacharya's life. Dronacharya and Kripi are blessed with a son, Ashwathama, who brings joy but also deeper responsibility. Despite his knowledge and skills, Dronacharya faces severe poverty, struggling to provide for his family. Dronacharya decides to approach King Drupada, reminding him of their childhood friendship and the promise of half the kingdom. Dronacharya enters the grand palace of Drupada, hoping to rekindle their past bond. Drupada cruelly laughs at Dronacharya and mocks him, saying, "How can a beggar rule a kingdom?" Dronacharya's anger simmers as he leaves Drupada's court, vowing silently to repay the insult. Dronacharya decides to live secretly in Kripacharya's house while contemplating his next steps. One day, Dronacharya walks by a group of princes gathered around a deep well, struggling to retrieve a ball that has fallen in. Arjuna explains to Dronacharya, "Our ball has fallen into the well, and my brother lost his ring too. We cannot retrieve them." Dronacharya smirks and says, "You have bows and arrows but don't know how to use them. A true archer can retrieve anything." Prince Duryodhana doubts Dronacharya's abilities and sarcastically challenges him to retrieve the ball himself. Dronacharya uses a simple coconut stick, throwing one after another, creating a chain to pull the ball from the well. The princes watch in amazement as Dronakarya lifts the ball out of the well with ease, stunned by his skill. Yudhishthira requests Dronacharya to retrieve his lost ring as well, which Dronacharya does effortlessly. Arjuna, struck by Dronacharya's mastery, asks, "Who are you, Great One? What is your name?" Dronacharya smiles and says, "Go tell Bhishma about what you have seen, and he will tell you who I am." Arjuna runs to Bhishma and recounts the miraculous events, showing the retrieved ball. Bhishma immediately recognizes that the man must be Dronacharya and asks where he is now. Bhishma visits Kripacharya's house and humbly asks Dronacharya to become the royal teacher for the Kuru princes. After careful thought, Dronacharya agrees to become the teacher of the 105 princes, including the Pandavas and Kauravas. Dronacharya harbors deep resentment towards Drupada for his insult. Meanwhile, Drupada rules his kingdom with arrogance, unaware of Dronacharya's plans for the future.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
Amidst the grand palace grounds, the renowned warrior Dronacharya was appointed the teacher of the Kuru princes. His eyes scanned the eager students. The future of the kingdom gathered before him. Karna, the noble son of a charioteer, approached Dronacharya with unwavering respect, seeking to be taught the art of archery. But the teacher's response was not what he had hoped for. Dronacharya's voice, though calm, was firm. "I cannot teach you, Karna. Only those of royal blood from the Kuru clan are permitted to be my disciples." Karna's heart sank at the harsh truth. With a heavy heart but an unbroken will, Karna left the training grounds. His footsteps carried him to the forest, where he vowed to find a teacher who would not care for his lineage. Duryodhana, ever the cunning strategist, approached Ashwathama with a tempting offer. "When I am king, I will make you a king as well," he said, planting the seeds of loyalty and ambition. Ashwathama, drawn by the promise of power, accepted Duryodhana's words with a nod. Their hands clasped, sealing the alliance that would shape the future of the kingdom. Under the watchful eye of Dronacharya, the princes trained hard. Arjuna, ever the dedicated student, absorbed every lesson with precision, while Duryodhana's eyes wandered to his schemes. From the shadows of the forest, Ekalavan watched the teachings of Dronacharya with admiration and yearning. But his status as a hunter's prince barred him from joining the royal students. Determined to learn, Ekalavan crafted a lifelike statue of Dronacharya. Every day he bowed before it, practicing in secret as if the statue itself were his teacher. Though unseen by the master, Ekalavan learned every lesson. In the heart of the forest, he practiced tirelessly, perfecting the techniques he had only glimpsed from a distance. In the stillness of the night, a dog's bark shattered the silence. With incredible skill, Ekalavan released 7 arrows, silencing the dog's mouth without inflicting a single wound. Arjuna, on a hunt, stumbled upon the dog. His eyes widened in awe as he examined the precise arrows. Who could have such mastery? Following the trail, Arjuna discovered Ekalavan's secret. The young hunter had learned archery by observing Dronacharya, and in his heart he considered the great teacher his guru. Arjuna's heart was heavy with doubt. Could this unseen student practicing in secret surpass him? The thought troubled him deeply. Word of Ekalavan's skill reached Dronacharya. Intrigued, the guru set out to the forest to meet the young archer who had learned so much from afar. Ekalavan kneeling in shock before Dronacharya in a forest clearing, the wooden statue of Dronacharya visible in the background. Dronacharya's eyes softened with pride. "You have done well, Ekalavan," he said. Ekalavan bowed deeply, overwhelmed by his guru's words. "You have learned from me, Ekalavan, and for that you must offer Guru Dakshina," Dronacharya said gently. Without hesitation, Ekalavan nodded, ready to fulfill any request. Without a second thought, Ekalavan drew his knife and severed his right-hand thumb. He placed it at Dronacharya's feet, his face serene with devotion. Dronacharya turned to Arjuna, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You will always be my dearest student, Arjuna," he said, his voice full of affection. Arjuna's heart was reassured.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
Dronacharya, the revered guru, stood tall in the lush training ground, overseeing the practice of the young Kuru princes. Each prince had developed expertise in specific weapons, honing their skills under Drona's guidance. Yudhishthira, the eldest Pandava, was known for his impeccable skill with the spear. His balance and poise reflected in every throw, demonstrating his mastery. Bhima and Duryodhana, though rivals, shared a unique mastery over the mace, the weapon of brute strength. Their ferocity and power made them formidable opponents on the battlefield. The youngest Pandavas, Nakula and Sahadeva, were experts in the art of sword fighting. Their swift movements and coordinated attacks made them deadly with their blades. Arjuna stood apart from his brothers and cousins, excelling in every weapon he touched. His skill, precision, and dedication made him the most beloved disciple of Dronacharya. Though Dronacharya loved all his students, his bond with Arjuna was special. He saw in Arjuna the potential to carry out his long-held plan against King Drupada. One day, Dronacharya decided to test his disciples' focus and skill. A wooden toy bird was placed high on a tree branch. "I will ask each of you to shoot the bird's eye," he declared. First, Yudhishthira stepped forward with his bow. Dronacharya asked, "Can you see the bird?" Yudhishthira replied, "I can see the bird, the tree, and the sky." "Step back," Dronacharya commanded Yudhishthira. The answer was not what he sought. Each student needed to focus solely on the task. One by one, the other princes took their turns, each answering similarly. They saw the bird, the tree, and the surroundings. None could grasp Dronacharya's true lesson. Finally, it was Arjuna's turn. He stepped forward with unwavering confidence, bow in hand, eyes fixed on the wooden bird. Dronacharya asked, "Arjuna, can you see the bird?" Arjuna, without hesitation, replied, "I see only the bird." Surprised, Dronacharya asked again, "What exactly do you see?" Arjuna responded, "I see only the bird's head." For a third time, Dronacharya pressed, "And now?" Arjuna calmly answered, "I see only the eye of the bird." With a smile of satisfaction, Dronacharya commanded, "Shoot." Arjuna released the arrow. It flew with precision and struck the eye of the wooden bird. Dronacharya's face lit up with pride and joy. "Well done, my boy," he exclaimed, embracing Arjuna for his perfect focus and execution. Duryodhana, standing in the background, clenched his fists. The jealousy that burned within him grew as he watched his rival being showered with praise. Even Ashwathama, Dronacharya's own son, felt the sting of his father's affection for Arjuna. A silent rivalry began to grow in his heart. The other Pandavas, especially Bhima and Yudhishthira, were thrilled for Arjuna, cheering their brother's success. Duryodhana and Ashwathama, however, were united in their growing hatred for the Pandavas, especially Arjuna. The seeds of future conflict were sown.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
Ashwathama, son of the revered Guru Dronacharya, stood before his father, visibly upset. He complained about the special attention Dronacharya was giving to Arjuna. Dronacharya, not uttering a word in response, quietly rose and headed toward the riverbank to take his bath, leaving his son's words unanswered. As Dronacharya began to bathe in the river, a ferocious crocodile appeared from the depths and clamped its jaws around his leg. Dronacharya remained calm but called for help. Hearing their guru's cries, all of Dronacharya's disciples, including Ashwathama, rushed to the riverbank. But despite their numbers, none could figure out how to save their master. Arjuna, observing from a distance while perched on a tree, quickly understood the situation. Without hesitation, he knocked an arrow, aimed, and shot at the crocodile with precise skill. The arrow struck the crocodile, instantly killing it. As it disappeared into the water, Dronacharya stood unharmed, his test complete. Dronacharya revealed that the crocodile was merely an illusion, created to test the devotion and skill of his students. Turning to Ashwathama, Dronacharya said, "Look at Arjuna's dedication. Without a thought for his own life, he acted to save his guru. This is why Arjuna will surpass you and lead." Elsewhere, Karna, the son of Kunti and Surya, was searching for a guru who could teach him the knowledge of warfare, but most refused him due to his charioteer's lineage. Karna learned about the great warrior sage Parasurama, who only taught Brahmins. Desperate for knowledge, Karna disguised his true identity and presented himself as a Brahmin to Parasurama. Karna trained diligently under Parasurama, mastering every skill and gaining immense knowledge. His devotion to his guru was unwavering. As Karna's training neared completion, Parasurama trusted him so much that he would rest his head on Karna's lap while taking naps during the day. One day, as Parasurama slept, a deadly scorpion crawled up to Karna and stung his leg. Despite the excruciating pain, Karna did not flinch, fearing he would disturb his guru's sleep. Parasurama awoke to find his student bleeding heavily. He was shocked at the sight and immediately realized something was wrong. Only a warrior could have withstood such pain without moving, Parasurama declared. Tell me the truth, Karna. Are you truly a Brahmin? With guilt weighing heavily upon him, Karna confessed his deception to his guru. I am not a Brahmin, but a Kshatriya by birth. I lied to receive your teachings. Outraged by Karna's deceit, Parasurama cursed him. The knowledge you have gained will fail you when you need it most, for you have lied to your guru. Karna accepted the curse with humility, bowing at his guru's feet, knowing that his deception had brought this fate upon him. With a heavy heart, Karna bid farewell to Parasurama, thanking him for the knowledge and accepting his fate with grace. Both Arjuna and Karna had shown great devotion to their gurus. However, where Arjuna's dedication led to praise, Karna's deception led to a curse.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
After completing their education, Dronacharya felt it was time for his students to demonstrate the extraordinary skills they had learned under his guidance. He approached Bhishma, informing him of his desire to organize a grand event to showcase the talents of the Pandavas and Kauravas to the people of Hastinapur. The wise minister Vidura took charge of designing the stadium. He ensured the structure allowed spectators to watch the performances from all sides. The grand stadium was built quickly, reflecting the majesty of Hastinapur. As the event neared, Hastinapur was decorated for the occasion. Colorful banners, flowers, and garlands adorned every street, while the excitement among the people was palpable. King Dhritarashtra, blind by birth, was seated at the center of the stadium. Beside him sat Bhishma, the protector of Hastinapur's throne, and Dronacharya, eager to see his students' accomplishments. Queen Gandhari and Queen Kunti took their seats in the audience. The event commenced with the beat of drums, setting the stage for the grand display of warrior skills. The sound echoed throughout the stadium, filling the hearts of the people with anticipation. Yudhishthira, the eldest prince, entered the arena first. His confident gait and calm demeanor commanded attention. The crowd cheered as he approached the center of the stadium, ready to display his skills. Yudhishthira showcased his mastery of swordsmanship, moving with precision and grace. His sword sliced through the air as he performed intricate maneuvers, captivating the audience. He then picked up the mace, wielding it effortlessly. With great force, he swung it in wide arcs, displaying his strength and skill, leaving the audience amazed by his control. In a fierce display, Yudhishthira engaged in mock combat with a trained elephant. He used his agility to dodge the massive creature's attacks, showcasing his ability to fight even the most powerful opponents. He demonstrated his skill in chariot and horseback combat, maneuvering the vehicles with expertise, shooting arrows with deadly precision. The crowd's cheers grew louder as Yudhishthira completed his performance. Vidura, seated beside Dhritarashtra, narrated every moment of Yudhishthira's performance in vivid detail, ensuring the blind king could experience the awe-inspiring display. After Yudhishthira's performance, Bhima and Duryodhana stepped into the arena, prepared to engage in a fierce battle. The tension was palpable as the crowd watched the two mighty warriors face off like two wild elephants ready to charge. The battle between Bhima and Duryodhana was ferocious. They fought like two powerful elephants, each trying to overpower the other. The crowd cheered wildly, supporting their favorite warrior. As the battle grew more intense, Dronacharya ordered his son, Ashwathama, to intervene. Ashwathama stepped in and separated the two warriors, bringing the fight to an end. After the fierce battle, Dronacharya announced his favorite student, Arjuna, who would now showcase his exceptional skills. As Arjuna entered the arena, the crowd erupted in cheers. Queen Kunti's heart swelled with pride. Arjuna began his display by shooting a fire arrow. As the arrow flew through the air, it ignited, creating a brilliant blaze that lit up the entire stadium. He then shot a water arrow, which summoned rain to extinguish the fire he had created. The crowd gasped in amazement as the flames were doused in moments. Arjuna followed with an air arrow, which summoned a powerful storm. Winds swept through the stadium, showcasing Arjuna's mastery over the elements. Finally, Arjuna shot an earth-piercing arrow. As it hit the ground, the earth cracked open, leaving a deep fissure in its wake. The crowd stood in stunned silence, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. With his incredible display complete, Arjuna stood tall, and the crowd erupted into thunderous applause. No one could take their eyes off him. His mastery of archery and control over the elements left everyone spellbound.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
As Arjuna's incredible display of skills ended, the crowd was still in awe. Suddenly, a thunderous sound echoed through the stadium, grabbing everyone's attention. All eyes turned to the entrance, and there, standing like a radiant sun, was Karna, with golden armor gleaming and earrings bestowed upon him by the sun god. The audience whispered among themselves, awestruck by the magnificent figure before them. Who was this youth, shining with such brilliance? The murmurs grew louder as they admired his divine appearance, curious about his identity. Karna, unaware of his royal lineage, saluted the king and the people of Hastinapur with quiet dignity. His heart was filled with purpose as he faced the crowd and the assembled royals, ready to prove his worth. Without hesitation, Karna challenged Arjuna directly, his voice strong and unwavering. "Partha," he declared, "I can perform the feats you just displayed, and perhaps even surpass you." His challenge sent a ripple of excitement through the crowd. Watching from the royal box, Duryodhana's heart leaped with joy. Here was the warrior he had longed for, someone who could stand as a rival to Arjuna. A smile of satisfaction crossed his face as he leaned forward eagerly. Karna respectfully sought Dronacharya's permission to display his skills. The wise teacher, though uncertain about Karna's background, granted his approval, allowing the challenge to proceed. Karna began his demonstration, mirroring Arjuna's feats with ease. He shot fire arrows, summoned rain, called upon the winds, and cracked the earth. Each display matched Arjuna's skill, leaving the crowd in awe once again. The crowd gasped in disbelief as Karna's performance matched Arjuna's in every aspect. They couldn't believe their eyes. Another warrior with such immense talent had emerged before them. Duryodhana, filled with admiration for Karna's prowess, rushed down to the arena. Without hesitation, he embraced Karna, declaring his happiness at finding such a skilled warrior and friend. Wanting to secure Karna's loyalty, Duryodhana made an extraordinary offer. He declared Karna the king of Anga, a kingdom that would allow Karna to stand on equal ground with the other warriors of Hastinapur. With Dhritarashtra's approval, Duryodhana ordered the crown of Anga to be brought to the arena. Karna, a charioteer's son, stood still, overwhelmed as the royal attendants placed the crown on his head. Overcome with emotion, Karna was unable to speak. His heart was filled with gratitude and loyalty to Duryodhana. With tears in his eyes, Karna promised to devote himself fully to Duryodhana, swearing lifelong loyalty. Bhima, unable to resist, taunted Karna. "A charioteer's son has now become a king," he said mockingly, his voice full of disdain. Bhima's words stung Karna, but the newly crowned king stood silent. Furious at Bhima's insult, Duryodhana defended Karna passionately. "A man's worth is not in his birth but in his qualities," he declared. "Karna is as radiant and noble as the sun itself." The crowd, previously united in admiration, began to murmur, divided by Bhima's words and Duryodhana's defense. Some supported Karna, while others remained skeptical of his newfound status. Karna, still moved by Duryodhana's generosity, raised his hand and swore an oath. "For the kindness you have shown me, Duryodhana, I shall be yours for life. I will serve you with unwavering loyalty." Duryodhana was deeply moved by Karna's promise. He placed his hand on Karna's shoulder and declared, "From this day forward, we are brothers in arms. Together we will stand against anyone who opposes us." As the day came to an end, the sun began to set over the stadium. The golden rays of dusk reflected on Karna's armor as the people began to disperse, discussing the day's remarkable events. Amidst the departing crowd, Queen Kunti stood silently, watching her sons, Arjuna and Karna, unaware of their shared bloodline. Her heart ached with sorrow as she realized the fate of her children was bound in rivalry. As the people of Hastinapur returned to their homes, a sense of unease lingered. The stage had been set for a future of rivalry, not just between Arjuna and Karna, but between two great families bound by destiny and divided by loyalty.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
In the royal court of Hastinapur, Bhishma, the wise elder, stands beside King Dhritarashtra. His voice is calm but firm as he discusses the legalities of succession. "O king, while you rule Hastinapur, it was Pandu, not you, who was the rightful crown king. Consecration is required to bestow the title of crown king upon you." Dronacharya, the venerable teacher, enters the court. His long white beard flows as he steps into the chamber, his eyes sharp and discerning. "The princes of Hastinapur have completed their education under my guidance," he announces. "Now it is time for them to offer me Guru Dakshina." Dronacharya's gaze sweeps over the court as he addresses Dhritarashtra. "Who among the princes has the power to grant me what I desire for my Guru Dakshina?" he asks. Dhritarashtra, confident in the wealth of Hastinapur, replies, "Our kingdom is vast and wealthy. Ask for anything and it shall be yours." With an unwavering gaze, Dronacharya responds, "The Guru Dakshina must come from my disciples, not from the kingdom." Arjuna, the ever-humble disciple, steps forward with folded hands. His voice is gentle but confident. "Please, Gurudeva, command me. I am ready to fulfill your wish." Duryodhana, in contrast, steps forward with arrogance. His voice booms through the hall. "I can give you anything you desire, Gurudeva. With my strength, there is nothing I cannot do." Dronacharya's eyes narrow as he reveals his demand. "Capture King Drupada of Panchala and bring him to me as a prisoner. That will be your Guru Dakshina." Dhritarashtra, concerned about the challenge ahead, interjects, "You wish to declare war on Panchala? Drupada is a seasoned warrior. Our princes have not faced real battle." Dronacharya's voice is resolute. "The kingdom must not intervene. The princes must prove their worth. They alone will face this challenge." The Kauravas march to Panchala with Duryodhana leading the charge. They engage Drupada's forces but are quickly overwhelmed. The Panchala warriors imprison Duryodhana and his brothers. With the Kauravas defeated, the Pandavas prepare for their mission. Arjuna, the strategic leader, rallies his brothers for battle. "We will succeed where the Kauravas failed." King Drupada sets up a Chakravyuha, a complex circular battle formation designed to confuse the enemy. His warriors stand ready in intricate patterns. Arjuna studies the Chakravyuha with a keen eye. His deep knowledge of battle formations allows him to guide his brothers through its complex structure. "Follow me, we will break through." With swift movements, Arjuna penetrates the heart of the Chakravyuha, reaching King Drupada. "Your time has come, Drupada." Arjuna engages Drupada in fierce combat, outmatching the king with his superior skills. Eventually, Drupada falls and is captured by Arjuna. Arjuna returns to Hastinapur with the captured King Drupada. He presents him to Dronacharya as the fulfilled Guru Dakshina. "Gurudeva, I have brought Drupada as you commanded." Dronacharya faces Drupada and recalls the past. "Once you scorned me for being poor. Now I stand before you as the master of your fate." In a surprising twist, Dronacharya offers half of Drupada's kingdom back to him. "I am not here for revenge. Take half of your kingdom and rule as my equal." Despite Dronacharya's generosity, Drupada's heart is filled with resentment. "I will never forgive you for this humiliation." As Drupada departs, the seeds of future conflict are sown. Though Dronacharya attempted to mend the past, Drupada's grudge remains. The air is tense with unresolved feelings.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
King Drupada, once a close friend of Dronacharya, is consumed with anger and shame after his defeat. He feels humiliated and betrayed, and vows to take revenge on Dronacharya. To fulfill this desire, Drupada decides to perform a powerful yagna, sacrifice, with the sole aim of producing a warrior capable of killing Dronacharya. King Drupada visits many sages and rishis across the land, requesting them to perform a yagna that will bring forth a warrior destined to kill Dronacharya. However, all the sages refuse, warning him that seeking revenge through divine rituals is a sin that will lead to dire consequences. After many rejections, Drupada meets sage Yaja, who agrees to perform the yagna in exchange for wealth. Yaja also involves his brother, sage Upayaja. Together, they agree to help Drupada in fulfilling his wish, knowing the karmic consequences but lured by the king's offer of riches. The sages prepare for the yagna in Drupada's kingdom, Panchala. A grand altar is constructed and sacred rituals are set in motion. The atmosphere is charged with the sacred energy of the approaching ceremony. and Drupada watches with bated breath. The yagna commences with the chanting of powerful mantras and the offering of ghee into the fire. Sage Yaja and Upayaja chant ancient incantations to invoke the divine forces, while Drupada sits nearby, his eyes fixed on the flames, waiting for the outcome. For several days, the yagna continues without interruption. Priests make offerings into the fire, and the atmosphere becomes more intense with each passing day. The entire kingdom of Panchala anxiously awaits the outcome, knowing the magnitude of the ritual being performed. Finally, after many days of intense rituals, a young man emerges from the flames. He is radiant, holding a sword, and carries an aura of strength and purpose. The young man is Drishtadyumna, a warrior destined to kill Dronakarya. As Drishtadyumna emerges from the fire, a divine voice from the sky proclaims, "This young man will become the disciple of Dronakarya and will one day kill him." The declaration shocks Drupada, but he is filled with joy at the thought of his revenge being fulfilled. King Drupada, overjoyed at the prophecy, rushes forward to embrace Drishtadyumna. His heart fills with pride and satisfaction as he realizes that his desire for vengeance is now within reach. Right after Drishtadyumna, another figure emerges from the fire, a beautiful young woman, Draupadi. She is adorned with divine beauty, glowing with grace and elegance, a figure destined for greatness. A second voice from the heavens declares, "This woman will change the fate of many kingdoms and will bring an end to all sinners." The entire kingdom of Panchala reverberates with excitement at the birth of such a powerful and divine figure. King Drupada is overwhelmed with happiness, knowing that both his children have divine destinies. His dreams of revenge and the rise of his kingdom seem assured as he welcomes Drishtadyumna and Draupadi. The news of Drishtadyumna and Draupadi spreads through the kingdom, and the entire realm of Panchala bursts into celebration. People rejoice, knowing that their prince and princess will lead them to greatness. Following the divine command, Drishtadyumna travels to Dronakarya's hermitage and requests to be accepted as his disciple. Despite knowing the prophecy, Dronacharya agrees, as he is bound by his duty as a teacher. Dronacharya, being a great sage, is aware of Drishtadyumna's destiny. Despite knowing that Drishtadyumna is fated to kill him, he accepts him as a disciple and prepares to teach him everything without reservation. Dronacharya trains Drishtadyumna rigorously in the art of war. He teaches him archery, swordsmanship, and advanced military strategy, preparing him for the battles that lie ahead. Meanwhile, King Drupada begins preparing his kingdom for the inevitable conflict. He knows that Dronacharya's defeat will come soon, and he readies his army and resources for the future war. Draupadi grows into a graceful and intelligent woman, admired by all. She becomes a symbol of beauty and power, with many kingdoms hearing of her charm and strength. Drishtadyumna, now fully trained, knows his destiny is to face Dronacharya in battle. He remains focused on his mission, driven by the prophecy that has shaped his life. As Draupadi grows, it becomes clear that she is not just a princess, but a force of destiny. Her marriage and actions will change the fate of kingdoms, bringing justice and an end to sinners.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
The competition for the next king of Hastinapur intensifies as Dhritarashtra faces the moment of decision. Torn between his heart's desire to see his son Duryodhana crowned and the advice of his people, he ponders the weight of his choice. Duryodhana is haunted by his recent failure against King Drupada, his shame clouding his thoughts. His ambitions for the throne feel threatened, and he grows desperate to redeem himself. The people of Hastinapur, along with the elders of the court, favor Yudhishthira. They believe in his righteousness, bolstered by the might of Arjuna and Bhima. Their whispers echo through the palace halls. Yudhishthira must be king. In the court, Duryodhana approaches his father Dhritarashtra, frustrated and determined. "You were denied the throne because of your blindness, so it was Pandu who became king. Now it's my right to ascend the throne. I possess all the qualities." Duryodhana seethes with hatred toward the Pandavas, branding them as enemies. He insists that he alone deserves the crown of Hastinapur, pushing his father to see the Pandavas as threats. Dhritarashtra consults with the elders and ministers of Hastinapur. They speak in unison. Yudhishthira is the rightful heir to the throne, a king who embodies dharma and justice. With a heavy heart, Dhritarashtra places the crown of Hastinapur on Yudhishthira's head, though his mind is filled with regret. He secretly wishes his son Duryodhana had taken this honor. Angered and determined, Duryodhana devises a sinister plan. He convinces his father to send the Pandavas away to Varanavatha, assuring him that he will handle the rest. Reluctantly, Dhritarashtra agrees to Duryodhana's plan. As the king, he orders the Pandavas and their mother Kunti to go to Varanavatha for a festival celebration. Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas, leaves Hastinapur with her sons. Though they heed the king's command, an unease settles in their hearts. Vidura, the wise minister and brother to Dhritarashtra, senses something amiss. He warns Yudhishthira in a coded message. The rat survives even a forest fire by digging underground. Yudhishthira grasps Vidura's cryptic message. He understands that their journey to Varanavatha is not just a festive retreat, but part of a dangerous plot. The Pandavas and Kunti arrive in Varanavatha, welcomed warmly by the people, though their thoughts remain cautious and alert. The Pandavas are housed in a grand palace, but something feels off. The walls reek of flammable materials, and Yudhishthira's suspicions grow. Yudhishthira and his brothers realize the palace is a death trap, built to burn with them inside. They begin to formulate their own escape plan.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
For months, Bhima kept a close watch on Purochana. While the Pandavas lived under the guise of peace, Bhima grew suspicious of Purochana's hidden accomplices, particularly the woman who had been placed to help them. He knew she was no innocent bystander, but a pawn in Purochana's plan. Bhima, always the strategist, came up with a counter-plan. He shared his thoughts with Arjuna, and the two brothers decided to act swiftly, preempting Purochana's deadly trap by turning his own plan against him. The Pandavas knew that the only way to deal with Purochana's allies was to incapacitate them. Bhima and Arjuna prepared a strong sedative, mixing it into the evening meal they would serve to the woman and her 5 sons. That night, Bhima and Arjuna invited the woman and her 5 sons to join them for dinner. The Pandavas treated them warmly, ensuring that no suspicion arose. The woman and her sons ate the food, unaware of what awaited them. As the night progressed, the sedative took effect. One by one, the woman and her sons fell into a deep, drugged sleep. Bhima and Arjuna nodded to each other, knowing the first part of their plan had succeeded. Once the woman and her sons were unconscious, the Pandavas acted quickly. Bhima and Arjuna carried them into one of the palace's inner rooms, ensuring they would be trapped when the fire began. While the Pandavas executed their plan, Purochana slept soundly in a separate room outside the palace, completely unaware that the Pandavas had outwitted him. Bhima knew Purochana would soon meet his end. With the woman and her sons locked in the palace, Bhima opened the tunnel that had been dug over the past year. He led his brothers and Kunti to the entrance, ensuring their safe passage. One by one, the Pandavas and Kunti descended into the tunnel. The tunnel was narrow and dark, but it was their only path to freedom. Bhima urged them to move quickly, knowing the fire would soon begin. After ensuring his family's safe passage, Bhima returned to the palace. With a torch in hand, he began to set fire to the palace walls and rooms. The flames quickly spread, consuming everything in their path. As the fire spread rapidly, engulfing the palace, Bhima watched for a moment to ensure that it would destroy everything, including Purochana and the woman's family. The flames roared louder with each passing second. Before entering the tunnel, Bhima glanced back one last time, ensuring the palace was fully ablaze. Satisfied that no one would survive, he entered the tunnel and sealed it behind him, disappearing into the night. As Bhima caught up with his family, they moved silently through the dark, damp tunnel. Though the way was narrow and difficult, they knew it was the path to freedom and safety. While the Pandavas made their way through the tunnel, the palace in Varanavatha collapsed under the intense heat of the fire. Purochana, along with the woman and her sons, perished in the flames. After what felt like hours, the Pandavas finally emerged from the tunnel, stepping into the cool night air of the forest. They were safe, but the journey ahead was still uncertain. As they gathered in the forest, Yudhishthira turned to Bhima and nodded. Bhima's plan had worked perfectly, and they had escaped Duryodhana's deadly plot. For now, they were safe. The Pandavas watched from the safety of the forest as the last remnants of the palace smoldered in the distance. Duryodhana's plan had failed, and the Pandavas lived to fight another day. As the night wore on, the Pandavas reflected on their escape. They had narrowly avoided death, thanks to Bhima's foresight, but they knew Duryodhana's pursuit would not end here. Though they had escaped immediate danger, the Pandavas knew they could not rest for long. They prepared to continue their journey, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With the palace in ruins and Duryodhana's plan foiled, the Pandavas set out into the forest, disappearing into the darkness. Their journey was just beginning.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
The Pandavas, along with their mother Kunti, finally enter the forest after their miraculous escape. The dense trees and eerie silence of the wilderness stand in stark contrast to the palace they left behind. Kunti looks over her sons, filled with both relief and sadness. The palace in Varanavattha, now a blazing inferno, crumbles under the heat of the flames. Villagers gather around, helplessly watching the destruction, assuming that the Pandavas and Kunti have perished. Smoke rises into the sky, darkening the horizon. The people of Varanavattha, devastated by the loss of their beloved prince's family, blame Duryodhana. They mutter curses under their breath, feeling the injustice done to the Pandavas. Messengers arrive at the royal court of Hastinapura with grim news. The Pandavas and Kunti are believed to have perished in the fire. The news shocks the court, and a wave of reactions floods the room. Duryodhana cannot hide his joy. He believes that with the Pandavas gone, his path to the throne is now clear. He celebrates privately, his heart filled with satisfaction. Dhritarashtra, though not showing much sorrow outwardly, feels a quiet unease deep inside. His conscience tugs at him, but his ambitions for his son override any grief. Bhishma, overcome with grief, finds himself questioning the morals of the kingdom he has sworn to protect. He struggles to come to terms with the loss of the Pandavas, feeling a deep sense of guilt. Vidura, though appearing outwardly calm and sorrowful like the others, knows the truth. The Pandavas are alive, but he must keep the secret hidden for their safety. Bhishma travels to Varanavattha to see the aftermath of the fire. As he looks upon the charred remains of 6 bodies, including that of Purochana, his sorrow deepens. Dhritarashtra oversees the funeral rites for the Pandavas and Kunti. The kingdom mourns as priests chant sacred mantras, believing the royal family to have met a tragic end. Vidura pulls Bhishma aside and reveals the truth. The Pandavas are safe. He explains how they escaped Duryodhana's trap and urges Bhishma to maintain the ruse of their death. Upon learning the truth, Bhishma's rage erupts. He is furious at Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra for such a vile plot. Vidura, however, calms him, advising that patience will serve them better. In the forest, Kunti reflects on their ordeal. She is heartbroken, not just by the betrayal, but by the realization that her children were nearly killed for a throne they did not ask for. Kunti calls her sons and declares her decision. Duryodhana's thirst for power is poisonous. She has no interest in the throne and would rather they live in peace, far away from the dangers of court life. The Pandavas, though shocked at their mother's decision, agree to her wishes. They choose to live in the forest, far away from the schemes of the royal court.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
The Pandavas, along with their mother Kunti, tread cautiously through the dense, dark Hidumban forest. Shadows dance among the trees, and an unnatural silence fills the air. The canopy is so thick that even the moonlight struggles to penetrate through. After hours of walking, the forest grows darker and more ominous. Yudhishthira, sensing fatigue among his brothers and mother, decides they should stop for the night. "We will rest here and resume at dawn," he says. Deep in the forest, Hidumban, a fierce demon with glowing red eyes and a terrifying physique, prowls his domain. His sister, Hidumbi, lurks nearby, sharing his hunger for human flesh. Suddenly, Hidumban stops and sniffs the air. His nostrils flare as he picks up the scent of the Pandavas. "Humans," he growls, his voice echoing through the trees. Hidumban orders Hidumbi to capture the intruders. Obeying her brother, Hidumbi changes her form. Her devilish features dissolve, and she transforms into a stunningly beautiful woman with soft, flowing hair and kind eyes. As she approaches the Pandavas' campsite, Hidumbi feigns fear and desperation. She tells them that she is lost and separated from her family, hoping to gain their trust. Bhima, mesmerized by her beauty, listens intently. As she draws closer to Bhima, Hidumbi feels her heart stir. Despite her initial intentions, she begins to fall in love with him. She hesitates to carry out her brother's orders, torn between her loyalty and newfound feelings. Yudhishthira and Arjuna exchange glances. Something about this woman doesn't feel right. Their warrior instincts tell them that she might be hiding something dangerous. Unable to deceive the Pandavas any longer, Hidumbi reveals her true identity. "I am Hidumbi, sister to Hidumban, the demon king of this forest," she confesses. She pleads with them, telling them she means no harm and only wishes to marry Bhima. Yudhishthira steps forward, reassuring Hidumbi, "Fear not, my brother Bhima will defeat your brother Hidumban. We have no need to run." His voice is calm but resolute. Suddenly, a thunderous roar shakes the ground as Hidumban arrives. His massive form looms over the Pandavas. "How dare you fall in love with a human?" he shouts at his sister, his rage palpable. "I will devour you all," Hidumban declares. But before he can act, Bhima steps forward, cracking his knuckles. "You'll have to get through me first," he challenges. The fight is about to begin. Hidumban charges at Bhima, but Bhima meets his attack head-on. The ground trembles as they clash, their fists hitting with the force of thunder. As the fight rages on, Bhima's immense strength becomes evident. He begins overpowering Hidumban, striking him with crushing blows that weaken the Demon King. With one final earth-shattering blow, Bhima brings Hidumban down. The Demon King collapses to the ground, defeated. The forest is silent once more. With Hidumban defeated, Hidumbi approaches Bhima, tearfully pleading for marriage. "I love you, Bhima. It is my fate to be with you," she says. Kunti listens sympathetically. Bhima hesitates. "I cannot marry you before my elder brother is married," he replies. He turns to Yudhishthira for guidance. Moved by Hidumbi's love and her plea, Kunti speaks to Yudhishthira. "Let Bhima marry her. It is destiny, and she wishes to bring a strong son into our family." With his mother's approval, Bhima agrees to marry Hidumbi. Their union is sealed, and soon Hidumbi gives birth to a powerful son. Soon after, Hidumbi gives birth to Ghatotkacha, a strong and fierce warrior. Bhima touches the child, and instantly he grows into a full-grown man, ready for battle.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
After the birth of Ghatotkacha, the Pandavas were forced into exile. They hid in the forest, living in a small village among the Brahmins. Life was difficult and they survived by begging for food. Every day, the brothers shared the food, with half going to Bhima and the rest shared between the others. Despite this, Bhima remained constantly hungry. One evening, the old man who had given shelter to the Pandavas was found crying with his family. Kunti noticed this and approached him to ask the reason for his sorrow. The old man explained that a terrifying demon, Bagasuran, lived in a nearby mountain. Bagasuran would come down and demand food and a person from the village every day. It was now the old man's turn to sacrifice either himself or his son. Kunti, filled with empathy, offered to send one of her sons in place of the old man's family member. The old man was horrified at the thought of losing one of her sons for his sake. Kunti insisted that her family repay the old man's kindness. She declared that Bhima would go in their place. Bhima, ever brave and hungry, agreed without hesitation. The old man, with a heavy heart, prepared a grand feast for Bagasuran, as was the custom. He cooked an enormous meal, which delighted Bhima, who had not had a proper meal in a long time. Before setting off to meet Bagasuran, Bhima ate the entire feast meant for the demon. He enjoyed every morsel, finally satisfied after so long. After finishing the meal, Bhima loaded the empty cart and set off towards the mountain where Bagasuran resided. His mind was focused on the fight ahead. As Bhima approached the mountain, he could feel the presence of Bagasuran. The air was thick with tension, but Bhima remained calm, knowing his strength would prevail. Bagasuran, smelling the food from a distance, descended from the mountain. He expected a feast, but to his surprise, he found Bhima casually eating it all. Bagasuran was furious. He approached Bhima, shouting and demanding to know why he was eating the food meant for him. Without acknowledging the demon, Bhima continued to eat, which enraged Bagasuran even more. The demon struck Bhima, but the mighty warrior didn't flinch. Enraged by Bhima's indifference, Bagasuran challenged him to a fight. Bhima, now satisfied after his meal, stood up to accept the challenge. The battle between Bhima and Bagasuran was fierce. The demon used all his strength, but Bhima's power was unmatched. Despite Bagasuran's ferocity, Bhima quickly gained the upper hand. With his immense strength, Bhima threw Bagasuran to the ground. After a fierce struggle, Bhima finally killed Bagasuran, ending his reign of terror over the village. Bhima returned to the village, driving the empty bullock cart. The villagers gathered, curious about what had happened. Bhima announced that Bagasuran was dead, and that the village was free from his terror. The villagers were overjoyed and praised Bhima for his bravery. The villagers celebrated the end of Bagasuran's tyranny with a grand feast. They thanked Bhima for saving their lives and honored the Pandavas. With the village safe, the Pandavas continued their journey through the forest, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
After killing the demon Bagasuran, the Pandavas gained immense popularity in the village. The villagers praised their bravery, and soon enough, the news might reach the ears of Duryodhana. Sensing the potential danger, the Pandavas decided it was time to leave the village quietly. As the Pandavas were about to leave, a Brahmin guest arrived at their house. He informed them that King Drupada had announced a Swayamvara for his daughter Panchali. He explained that all eligible princes would compete for her hand in marriage. The Pandavas, excited by the news, decided to travel to Drupada's kingdom to participate in the Swayamvara. They also hoped to live in the new kingdom for a while, as they were still living in disguise. Before they left, sage Vyasa appeared before them. He blessed the Pandavas and Kunti, giving them strength and guidance for the journey ahead. After a long journey, the Pandavas arrived in Panchala, the capital of King Drupada's kingdom. The entire kingdom was decorated with flowers, and the streets were filled with celebration as the Swayamvara was about to begin. King Drupada thought about Arjuna's bravery, wishing for him to marry his daughter Panchali. He designed a competition that only a warrior of Arjuna's skill could win. However, Drupada believed the Pandavas had perished in the fire at Varanavada. Among the many kings who arrived the day before the Swayamvara, Yadava King Krishna and his brother Balarama were also present. Krishna, a dear friend of Draupadi, had a keen interest in the events about to unfold. On the day of the Swayamvara, a massive crowd gathered in the grand stadium. The bow and arrow challenge was placed in the center. Above it, a rotating circle with holes and a fish toy positioned on top awaited the contestants. The aim was to hit the fish by shooting through the rotating circle. The first to attempt the challenge was King Shishupala from Seti. However, he struggled to even lift the bow, ultimately failing in embarrassment. Next came Duryodhana, full of arrogance. But like Shishupala, he too failed miserably and returned to his seat, humiliated. Karna, the mighty warrior, stepped forward next. He managed to lift the bow with ease, surprising the crowd. But just as he was about to aim, Draupadi declared that she would not marry the son of a charioteer. Upon hearing Draupadi's words, Karna lowered the bow and respectfully withdrew from the competition, though the crowd was shocked. As more kings failed, doubt began to spread among the crowd. Many started to believe that no one could succeed in this seemingly impossible challenge. In the midst of the confusion, a young Brahmin from the crowd stood up and approached Drishtadyumna. He asked if he could participate in the competition, claiming to have the knowledge and skill to win. The Brahmin, who was none other than Arjuna in disguise, approached the bow, lifted it effortlessly, and aimed with perfect precision. His arrow pierced through the rotating circle and hit the fish, winning the competition. As soon as Arjuna won, a shower of flowers rained down on him. Draupadi, beautifully adorned for the Swayamvara, approached Arjuna and placed a garland around his neck, choosing him as her husband. The crowd of kings erupted in anger, feeling humiliated that a mere Brahmin had won the competition. They began shouting and accusing King Drupada of designing the contest to shame them. Despite the uproar, Arjuna stood firm, unafraid. With his bow and arrow in hand, he prepared to defend himself against the angry kings. Meanwhile, Bhima, who was also in disguise, uprooted a tree from the ground and planted it in the center of the stadium as a show of strength. Just as the situation was about to escalate, Krishna stepped forward and calmed the crowd. At his command, the kings and princes quieted down and reluctantly returned to their kingdoms.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
In the grand palace of Panchala, warriors from across Bharat gathered to win Draupadi's hand. Arjuna, disguised as a Brahmin, calmly steps forward. The crowd murmurs in disbelief as he strings the massive bow with ease. His arrow strikes the target, winning Draupadi's hand amidst stunned silence and awe. King Drupad, impressed but curious, asks Arjuna and Bhima to reveal their true identities and stay in Panchala. Drishtadyumna, Draupadi's brother, silently observes them, sensing they are more than mere Brahmins. Arjuna politely declines the king's request, citing their commitment to their mother's orders. "We must live in the forest," he says, leading Draupadi and Bhima away. The trio travels through dense forests. Bhima protects Draupadi from wild animals, while Arjuna scouts the path. The night is filled with the sounds of nature, adding an air of suspense to their journey. Krishna and Balarama, returning from Panchala, notice the two Brahmins with Draupadi. "They look like Arjuna and Bhima," Krishna remarks, his intuition sharpening. Arjuna, Bhima, and Draupadi arrive at their modest forest hut, where Kunti is engrossed in prayer. The atmosphere is serene but charged with anticipation. Arjuna tells his mother, "I have brought a priceless gift today." Kunti, without opening her eyes, responds, "Share it equally among your brothers." Arjuna and Draupadi are stunned. When Kunti opens her eyes and sees Draupadi, she is horrified by her unintentional command. Arjuna pleads, "Mother, how can we share a woman?" Kunti apologizes, but Arjuna insists, "Even if unintentional, your word is law to us." Yudhishthira suggests, "Arjuna can marry Draupadi, and we will renounce worldly life to resolve this conflict." Arjuna rejects the idea, arguing that such a solution would destroy family unity and happiness. Krishna, sensing the tension, arrives with Balarama. "I see a divine solution to this dilemma," Krishna says with a knowing smile. Krishna explains Draupadi's past life as Nalayani, who prayed to Lord Shiva for a husband with 5 divine qualities. Shiva granted her the boon of marrying 5 husbands in her next life. Meanwhile, Drishtadyumna secretly follows Arjuna and Bhima, uncovering their identities as Pandavas. Drishtadyumna informs King Drupad that the Pandavas are alive and that Arjuna has won Draupadi. The Pandavas, Kunti, and Draupadi travel to Panchala to formalize the union, greeted warmly by the people. Upon hearing of Draupadi marrying all 5 brothers, King Drupad reacts with anger, deeming it impossible. Sage Vyasa appears, calming the storm. "This is the will of the divine," he declares, offering to explain Draupadi's destiny. Vyasa recounts Draupadi's past life and explains historical precedents of women with multiple husbands. Drupad, convinced by Vyasa's wisdom, agrees to the marriage with a heavy heart. Draupadi marries each Pandava in separate ceremonies, beginning with Yudhishthira, as per Vyasa's guidance. Panchala rejoices with music, dance, and feasting, celebrating the unique union. Draupadi accepts her destiny, uniting the Pandavas under her wisdom and grace. Sage Vyasa blesses the union, foretelling the Pandavas' future greatness. The Pandavas and Draupadi prepare for the challenges ahead, united in purpose and strength.
Please subscribe our channel Puppet Show.
The kingdom of Panchalam radiated joy as the union of Draupadi and the Pandavas brought peace and prosperity to the land. The streets were adorned with garlands and lights, and the air echoed with the sound of drums and flutes. King Drupad hosted a grand celebration where nobles, warriors, and commoners came together to rejoice. Draupadi, resplendent in her bridal finery, sat beside her 5 husbands, receiving blessings from elders and admiration from the people. In Hastinapur, news of the Pandavas' joyous life reached Duryodhana. Enraged and consumed by jealousy, he stormed into his chambers. His fiery eyes and clenched fists reflected his thirst for vengeance. Turning to Karnan, he declared, "I will not let them bask in happiness while we endure shame." His voice echoed with venom as he began planning an assault on Panchalam. Duryodhana and Karnan mobilized a formidable army. Soldiers armed with gleaming weapons gathered at the gates of Hastinapur. War elephants adorned with armor and horses neighing in anticipation added to the chaos. The sound of marching feet and clanging weapons signaled a storm heading toward Panchalam. The battlefield turned into a maelstrom of clashing swords and war cries. King Drupad led his forces with valor, meeting Duryodhana's troops head-on. Arrows rained down from both sides, and the earth trembled with the thunder of hooves and roaring war elephants. King Drupad's strategy and courage turned the tide of the battle. Duryodhana and Karnan, overwhelmed and outmaneuvered, retreated in defeat. Their soldiers scattered, leaving the battlefield silent but for the victorious cries of Panchalam's warriors. Back in Hastinapur, Vitharan entered the royal court to inform King Dhritarashtra of the Pandavas' survival and their prosperous life in Panchalam. The news brought a glimmer of relief to the blind king, though questions lingered about their absence from Hastinapur. King Dhritarashtra, though half pleased with the news, questioned, "If they are alive and well, why have they not returned home?" His voice wavered, a blend of concern and confusion. Vitharan, known for his wisdom, replied calmly, "O king, everything unfolds in its own time. The Pandavas needed to find their path, and now they are ready. They will come when the moment is right." His words resonated deeply, leaving the king contemplative yet reassured. To extend an olive branch, Dhritarashtra decided to send precious gifts to the Pandavas and Draupadi. Chariots filled with jewels, silks, and rare artifacts were prepared, symbolizing goodwill and an invitation to Hastinapur. Vitharan, accompanied by the convoy, reached Panchalam. He was warmly welcomed by the Pandavas and King Drupad. The air was thick with anticipation as he prepared to deliver Dhritarashtra's message. In the royal hall of Panchalam, Krishna and Balram sat alongside the Pandavas. Their presence exuded an aura of divinity and wisdom, adding weight to the unfolding discussion. Arjuna, ever the cautious warrior, voiced his doubts. "Vitharan, Duryodhana came to fight us. Now you call us to rule half of Hastinapur. How can we trust this sudden change?" His voice carried a mix of skepticism and indignation. Vitharan explained patiently, "The offer comes not just from the king, but with Bhishma's endorsement. Peace is the need of the hour, and a shared rule is the path forward." His words reflected his deep commitment to unity. The Pandavas deliberated among themselves. Yudhishthira, inclined toward peace, weighed the offer carefully, while Bhima and Arjuna voiced concerns of treachery. Tensions ran high as the decision loomed. Draupadi broke her silence, saying, "This is an opportunity, but we must tread carefully. Let us go, but remain vigilant." Her wisdom brought a new perspective, steering the discussion toward a cautious agreement. Krishna, with his ever-calm demeanor, advised, "Accept this offer, for it aligns with dharma. The path may be uncertain, but truth and righteousness will guide you." His words brought clarity to the Pandavas' decision. After much deliberation, the Pandavas agreed to Dhritarashtra's offer. Yudhishthira spoke with resolve, "We will return to Hastinapur, but we will not lower our guard." Their acceptance marked the beginning of a cautious journey toward reconciliation. The Pandavas bid an emotional farewell to Panchalam. King Drupad and the people gathered to send them off, their faces reflecting pride and sorrow. Draupadi's eyes lingered on her father as she stepped into the royal chariot alongside her husband's. The journey to Hastinapur was both serene and tense. The Pandavas traveled through lush landscapes, their thoughts focused on the challenges ahead. Krishna and Balram accompanied them, providing reassurance with their presence. At the gates of Hastinapur, the Pandavas were welcomed with pomp and grandeur. Dhritarashtra and Bhishma stood at the palace entrance, their expressions unreadable. While the air was filled with festivity, an undercurrent of tension hinted at the trials yet to come.